So, hi everyone. I'm John D'Agostino. Your name again? So,
I'm Anthony Scaramucci.
Scaramucci. Okay. So another quick poll.
I'm his older but also shorter brother, unfortunately. He got the height in the family. All right, but go ahead.
So another quick poll. I'm going to split this into two parts. One is very light and fun. The other's a little more serious. Who thinks we should do the light, fun part first and end serious? Who thinks we should flip it and start with serious? Nobody cares either way?
I think everybody just wants fun and
What
fun.
do you want to do?
I want fun and fun.
No, we got a little bit serious. A little bit serious. Resiliency.
We're in the North Fork of Long Island.
Quick, come on. Who wants to start with fun?
A tornado.
Start with fun. Okay, we're going to start with fun. Okay.
All right, so go ahead.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a game,
Yeah.
right? Because you and I have done so many of these.
Go ahead.
I tried to do something a little bit different. So now there's a very common game many of you have probably played. We can't really say the name in this audience, but you take three things and you rank them. Marry, blank, kill, right? We all know what I'm talking about?
Oh, God.
Now, we can't do that today. We can't say those words. So we're going to do marry, kiss, fire in 11 days.
All right, go ahead.
All right, you ready? Okay, we'll start light. We're going to start light, nice and easy.
Good.
We both grew up in Brooklyn,
Yeah,
Italian mothers. Wooden spoon, belt, hand. Marry, kiss, fire in 11 days.
So the belt was very bad. When you were getting hit with the belt, it was usually from a, male in the family. So that one I want to kill. Okay. I'm going to kiss the wooden spoon. That was always my nana.
Okay.
And so she would come at you with the spoon, but she would never hurt you. What was the third one?
Hand, belt, wooden spoon.
Yeah, so the hand,
So the hand
that was
you're
my
gonna marry
mother.
the hand. Okay.
The first thing my mother did with the hand was like this. She bit the hand, and then she came at you with the hand. It was bad. And
Okay.
she was a lefty, and great left hook from my mother.
Excellent. All right,
So,
keeping it light
going.
now.
All right, keep going.
World Cup, World Series, Super Bowl.
I mean, listen, I would kill the World Series. Comparatively, I think it's very boring compared to those other two.
Okay.
Okay, I would kiss the World Cup because I still don't get out of you. Don't score for 90 minutes, and it's an exciting game. I haven't figured that out. Having said that, it is an exciting game, and I'm a big Super Bowl fan. So I guess what am I doing with that one? I'm marrying that.
You're
one.
marrying Super Bowl. All right.
Right,
Now
okay,
we're going to
good, keep
shift
going.
into the focus of this conversation, which is resiliency. Now, the reason you and I were chosen,
Yeah,
one is I care about
because
you.
we failed upward, you and me.
Pretty much,
We
right? So
get our asses kicked every 3 months, and then
in 2004,
great thing about you and me, when shit goes bad, the papers write about us. You know, you can't fail in private. You have to fail very publicly in the New York Post.
It's an
But,
important
go ahead.
distinction. So in 2004, I was on the cover of the Wall Street Journal for being the youngest VP in NYMEX history. In 2006, I was on the cover again for being part of the third largest hedge fund blow-up in U.S. history. All in about 18 months.
Which one was that?
Mother
Amaranth?
Rock. Mother Rock.
All right.
You had some stuff happen to you as well. Now, it was a
Yeah.
bit bigger.
Yeah.
One thing that I've always admired about you is your ability to navigate the media in the face of all this. We're going to get into it in a second, but
There's no navigating.
marry, kiss, final 11 days.
There's no navigating the media.
Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn.
Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn.
As a messaging platform.
So I don't even know what. LinkedIn. I don't even know what it is, to be honest. I mean, so that
So
one I'm
kill that.
kissing. Kill it.
Kill,
Let me kill that
kill
one.
that. All right.
I'm gonna marry YouTube because YouTube is bigger than everything. Really study YouTube. It's bigger than Netflix. It's bigger than Warner Brothers, Discovery, plus Paramount, and YouTube is the colossus. And by the way, every single person here could be a YouTube entrepreneur if they have the right content. Okay, what was the third one?
Twitter.
Twitter.
X. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a cesspool, but I like it because it's like very grungy. So, I mean, we can't fuck that. No, right? We have
No.
to do. Okay.
No, we have to.
guess so. Okay.
Marry.
All right.
Thank
okay.
you. Okay.
All right.
All right. So let's
All right, go ahead.
pause the game there for a second because I want to dive into this because
just
one of the
asking,
things
Al.
that,
I mean,
this is fun, right? I got more.
All right, keep going.
One of the things that struck me when all that was happening with you is the manner in which you navigated social media. Now, crypto writ large is going through a state of depression. I think apathy versus negativity.
Yeah.
How do you? And a lot of people I've spoken to in this audience are struggling with how they
the
message.
worst thing, by the way, because
Right.
you want your ex to like quietly hate you. You know, when your ex becomes apathetic, you know you're pissed off about that, right? And that's why you do certain things on social media to egg people on. But the worst thing is apathy. But go ahead.
So what advice do you have, starting 10,000 foot level, what advice
Yeah.
do you have for folks who are tasked with messaging out, whether it's their company, macro environment, whatever it is, salespeople or spokespeople, for navigating an apathetic to negative
Yeah.
social media environment and media environment?
So, I mean, there's really only two things you can do. You can build or buy. Those are the two things you can do. You know, you can message into a vortex. You can message into an echo chamber. If that makes you feel good, you can do that. But really, the only two things to do are build or buy. And so you and I were talking about an asset that's down a lot, that's in disarray, looks very cheap. Maybe you and I team up and buy it, you know, and we merge a few things together. Or you just keep your head down and you build. You know, I got destroyed after the, I mean, I've been destroyed a few times, but like the worst one crypto-related was with Sam. You know, because I really liked Sam and I trusted Sam and I let him buy 30% of our business. And so when he imploded, I was like the poster boy for that. I went from announcing on CNBC that he was buying a piece of my business. We were like heroes. 8 weeks later, we went from hero to zero. I'd announced on CNBC that he had committed fraud, and I got caught up in it. And so there was only one thing to do, face the music with the media, but then dig in and start building. And so that's what we did. And by the way, this is a shallow bear market in my mind compared to that. There's apathy and people fear bad, but I think Bitcoin's at like 65 or 66,000 right now. It's not at 15,000. You know, that's where the real pain was.
What was a tougher time for you? Was it the Trump thing or was it the Sam thing?
No, I mean, it was guys, I mean, if you're ever having a bad day, I mean, the Trump thing was the fucking worst fucking thing that you could ever imagine. Okay, so I got fired after 11 days, but let me just set the scene for you. My wife and I were fighting. She filed for divorce because she's also Italian, so she was in the kill mode. She wasn't in the F mode or the marry mode anymore, and so she was filing for divorce. I missed the birth of my son. People don't remember that, but I remember it. He was born on July 24th. He's going to be 9. We just had his birthday party last week. Last Saturday. He was born on July 24th, 2017. You can look it up on your Google Calendar. That was a Monday. Where was I? I was at the Boy Scouts event in West Virginia, where Trump was saying, I don't know, sexual innuendo to the Boy Scouts. It was another bizarre form of behavior. But Deirdre was due on August 11th. She gave birth on July 24th. There was a 60-mile no-fly zone around Air Force One. There was no way to get back to New York. So I got a divorce filing, missed the birth of my son, and I got fired by the White House and lit up by the social media, cable news pundits. I mean, I think Bill Maher called me a Jersey Shore cast member. Jimmy Kimmel called me Tony Soprano on the Potomac. I mean, it was brutal. And then I got lit up. I mean, Saturday Night Live called me human cocaine. I like that one.
Anthony,
I thought that was
the,
fucking great. Okay,
Anthony, when you
but
think back,
it was brutal.
When
okay,
you think
so
back
I had
to
to
those days,
survive all that, repair my marriage, and thankfully we just celebrated James's birthday, and we're still married, thank God.
When you think back,
Knock on wood, thank God.
you,
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, let me, you know, and I appreciate that because let me tell you, that was very rough. And if you want to talk about blame, you know, people say, oh, 50% blame one way or the other. 99-1 on that one, I would have to take the blame. And the good news about her, she's a forgiving person. Thank God she loved me. Otherwise, we wouldn't be married. But I'm just going to tell you something. It's not crypto related, but maybe it is. Don't make your relationships disposable. Because this is what we do in life. We dispose of everything. Somebody does one thing wrong, we're going to throw them in the garbage. If you love somebody, you're going to go through human things, work it out. That's the message there. I didn't realize this was going to be a therapy session. You're you're cheaper than my therapist, D'Agostino. But let me say one thing. If you're having a bad day, call me, okay? Because if it's not cancer, I can tell you about my day on the 31st of July in 2017. I'll cheer you up. Okay, go ahead.
Anthony,
Keep going, John.
When you think back to those days, what was
Yeah.
the first thing you remember doing to start digging yourself out?
I went to the hospital.
Okay.
I went to go visit my son in the hospital.
Okay.
And then, you know, I was trying to figure out a way to get back in good graces with Deirdre. That was the first two things.
You prioritized.
Yeah,
the first thing was
number one is
prioritize.
your
Right.
family. Number two, but here's the thing. I had and he's passed now, and may his soul rest in peace. He was a phenomenal guy. We became very close friends. Somebody told me to hire a crisis PR person. And so I did. I hired a crisis PR person. I sat down with the guy, and he was like a Hollywood. He helped Michael Douglas with something, and this person and that person. And he's like, okay, listen, this is terrible. You are destroyed. And so here's what you should do. You're a pretty wealthy guy. You should buy a villa in Tuscany, and you should disappear from the United States for 5 years. Come back in 2022, and then we'll talk about potentially rebuilding your relationships. And I looked at Howard. His name was Howard Bragman. You could look him up. He was a phenomenal guy. I mean, I loved Howard. I actually went to Israel with him and said Kaddish at Rebecca's tomb for his mother. Him and I became very, very close friends. I said, Howard, that's the stupidest advice that I've ever heard. I said, but I hired you for your Rolodex. Give me Jimmy Kimmel's number. And I read mean tweets on Kimmel, which was absolutely brutal. And then I went on Colbert, and then I went on Bill Maher, and I faced the music. And if you're in a situation like that, face the music. You know, my friend Billy Bush, anybody remember Billy Bush?
Yeah.
He did not face the music. He was on this guy really got hit in the Trump crosshairs. He was on the bus with Trump when Trump was grabbing him by the you-know-what. He didn't really do anything wrong. He was just listening to him. That happened in 2005. He was getting excoriated in 2016, and it took him 4 or 5 years to dig himself out of that hole. So you can go Billy Bush, or the way I did it, you got to face the music.
So I want to make sure we leave the audience with a actionable series of advice. So I want to just summarize.
Okay.
First and foremost, prioritize. Right? Just like if you're lost in the woods, most important thing is water, then food, then shelter.
Right.
So personal family relationships, take care of that first. Get yourself in a good mental state. Then own it. And then now, in all fairness, not everyone can do that. It takes character and personality.
Well, how about being honest with yourself? I mean, I was with one of my kids yesterday, and he had a bad moment in high school, and the way he remembered it was literally not how it happened. Okay, because I remember it totally differently, and I sort of remember the school's version of what happened. And so, how about being honest with yourself? So, before you can prioritize, what's up, Brian? Before you can prioritize, you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? Because the hardest thing for every person, in my opinion, is when you're doing things wrong, you have a tendency to smooth them over or to alibi yourself. So you can't do that in a relationship or in business or, listen, I made a mistake teaming up with Sam. What am I going to do? Am I going to what am I going to do? Be the Scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz and try to pretend that wasn't my fault? I made the decision. I have to own the decision. So even before you prioritize, you got to look in the mirror and say, okay, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? So everybody here probably knows who Tony Robbins is, right?
Sure.
So Tony called me after I got fired. He wrote the foreword for my book, Hopping Over the Rabbit Hole. And he was like, you have got your priorities completely wrong. You and your wife love each other. You should come down here to Palm Beach to see me and Sage. And you have to figure out your marriage. But it's you. It's on you. Okay, you're not handling yourself right. You've got your ego in things. You're operating off of a pride, egocentric way of thinking as opposed to a more holistic thinking. And it's you. It's nobody else. So either you have to look in the mirror and face the music and fix yourself, or you're going to go into the, did anybody see The Odyssey? Okay, I mean, there's a great scene in The Odyssey, and I thought Nolan did it unbelievably well, where they're in the Charybdis, which is the whirlpool, and he's trying to get back to his wife, and they're hearing the siren call from the sea. And so what does he have to do? He has to exercise self-discipline, and he has to tie himself to the mast and delay the gratification of the temptation. And you got to do that. You got to get yourself in that position.
Excellent.
And he made a lot of mistakes. If you really studied the Iliad and you studied the Odyssey, and Nolan did a good job of explaining who Odysseus was, but he made a lot of mistakes. And as a result of his mistakes, There were episodic reckonings that he had to deal with as he was going through his odyssey, going through his journey. And you got to do that. Great movie,
So
by the way. I'm going back to see it again tonight in Southampton. It was really that good, and it was 3 hours long. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so 'cause we're going to tie all this back to crypto in the second half of this conversation. So we prioritize, we own the negative,
Yeah.
and then we work hard to recognize the absolute reality.
You have to
which sometimes takes outside perspectives, right? I called you, I don't know if you remember, I called you when that all went down.
I remember.
You and I had a very good conversation. It was probably the first conversation in my entire friendship with you where I felt I could add something. I always looked up to you.
Well,
I
listen,
never had
I
something to
remember
offer you.
because you
All
told
I had
me
was an outside perspective.
You told me your story about the whole kerfuffle that you had with the oil industry.
Yep.
That's another thing, guys. You know, if you're a good person, people are going to come and call you and help you. If you're a dick, okay, like anybody remember Elliot Spitzer? I mean, what a dick, okay? And so this guy was a dick to everybody on the way up.
It's true.
And what your mother said is true. Be nice to the people
Yeah.
on the way up because they're going to be the same people that you're going to meet on the way down. And when he was falling, nobody, grabbed the fire department. Remember in the cartoons that are grabbing the net to try to catch you, and he splattered the ground. You know, when I got hit like that, people like John called me. So you got to be nice to people because people will remember. They'll try to help you when you're in a bad spot.
Okay. So now
That's another big thing. You know, niceness is a superpower. We got a lot of these ruthless dick billionaires that think that you have to be subordinate to them because you're not as rich as them. Don't hang out with those people. They're not the right people for you.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
One more marry, kiss, fire in 11 days, and we're going to move on to the second half of this talk, which is tying this all back to the topic at hand, which is crypto. Therapy, exercise, meditation.
All right, so I'm Italian. I can't meditate. You can meditate?
Can't
It's not
meditate.
You can't meditate.
Brain just keeps
Brain is too active, and I start thinking, can't meditate.
hands start moving.
So we're going to kill meditation.
Okay.
Exercise, we're going to marry. I think you need that permanently. And what was the third one?
Kiss, therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not that big on the therapy either. But anyway, I try to do the therapy. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So now we have
Remember
a
something
framework.
about the Catholics. Okay, this is like a weird story, but I'm going to bring it up. So John the 23rd, who was the Pope that remodeled the Catholic Church, and if you look it up, it's called Vatican II. And so one of the big sacraments was confession. And so if you're a Catholic, you got to show up at confession. You got to show up minimum once a week, and you show up on a Saturday, and then you can take communion on a Sunday. When Vatican II happened, and they went a little bit more lenient on that sacrament, the Catholics' attendance in therapy matched the rest of the U.S. population. But prior to that, because you were going to the priest and telling them what your problems were, that was your form of therapy. So everybody needs therapy.
Well, now we have Reddit.
Right.
Right?
I don't know.
You
Yeah,
can just
I
you
guess
can
so.
you can confess your sins.
There's also
publicly.
BetterHelp.com.
Yeah.
If you've ever tried that, it's actually pretty good. All right, keep going.
Okay, so now I want to shift the conversation from the personal to the professional. Crypto has, as we mentioned, either an apathetic problem or a depression problem.
Yeah.
And so I want to apply your framework for resiliency to crypto writ large. So first thing we have to do is prioritize. What are the highest priority items you think the crypto industry needs to message
Well,
out?
I think, first, let me give my 2 cents for a second. So if you're in this room, you are a believer in the tech. And so everybody in this room, I would submit, unless someone's telling me I'm just here for the speculation, I'm like, okay, that's a big stretch. But, most people in this room are like, I believe in the blockchain. I believe in the tokenization that Larry Fink talks about. Kraken just did a deal with the NASDAQ. I think OKX announced a deal with ICE, which is New York Stock Exchange, and others. And so people in this room are like, I believe in the tech. And so what happens to crypto, unfortunately, you get waves of capital speculation that come in and out of crypto. And so that tide is out now in crypto, right? So that's that apathy that you're talking about. So you have to look at it and say, is it worth being here just for the tech? And so I believe that it is. I think the tech is transformative, whether it's Avalanche, Solana, you pick the tech. I think it works, and I think it's deployable, and people will use it. okay? And there's others. I mean, we can talk about the others, you know, the Telegram, the Gram, and all that other stuff. I think it's usable, right? And then the second piece of it is what is going to happen in the age of AI? So weirdly, AI sucked the speculative capital out of crypto, okay? But
87% of VC capital going to AI over the last 18 months.
Which is a really good example of that. And then all the retail money flooding into AI. And, you know, we should probably rename Skybridge AI or some shit like that. Maybe it'll help us. Because that's what happened with Web 1. Everybody became .com, right? So
Anthony Intelligence. You can keep that one. Yeah.
Sky AI Bridge. Maybe we call it Skynet and start killing people. You know, I don't know, something like that, you know. But the point that I'm making is everyone's moved there, and you guys think you're in the investment business or the crypto industry, but we're all in the fashion industry because the skirts go up and the skirts go down.
Really?
And we're into AI now. When I started on Wall Street, we were into biotech. Then we moved out of biotech. Then we got Web 1. And then Pets.com had a Super Bowl ad. That was the end of that. You know, and this is what we do to each other, right? But the tide is out now. And so for me, that's where the real opportunity is. And the real question you have to ask yourself is if you're moving into agentic AI, and Mark Andreessen, you should really listen to this whole podcast, by the way. He was on Rogan's podcast, I guess, a week ago. And what he said, I believe, that we are very close to full-on, if not already into agentic AI. And then is the banking regulators are going to allow the AI robots to have bank accounts at JP Morgan? Or are these guys going to be transacting using crypto? That's the real question. And I think the answer is the latter. And so you're going to be sitting here 2 or 3 years from now, and the tide is going to sweep back into crypto, and everything's going to gravitate upward, and you will have made the wise choice of not being disposable with your career. Like I said, don't be disposable with your relationships. Don't be disposable with your career.
Okay, so to summarize, from a prioritization perspective, we want to focus on technology infrastructure. I'll note that the London Stock Exchange also announced in the last 24 hours, 24-hour trading. We want to talk about agentic payments, likely using crypto. I'll also offer a third, which I think is kind of reaching ahead with the Elizabeth Warren pushback on clarity, the importance of decentralized consensus and what that means for all social contracts. So I think that's the core infrastructure that we're excited about, regardless of where price action is.
If you want to help the industry end the Washington gerontocracy, that's what we have to do. You have to look at these people that are like fossils. I mean, Chuck Grassley, I think he was like George Washington's grandfather or something like that. I mean, he's never going away. He's going to be there forever. Go look him up on Google. I think he's 92 or some shit. He wants to run again for re-election. I mean, this is nonsense. Has anybody seen Mitch McConnell? Has anyone done a life check on Mitch McConnell? We don't have it. He's disappeared on June 14th. We have absolutely no idea what the hell happened to him. Even the governor of Kentucky's looking for him. And this is embarrassing. I mean, come on, guys. This is embarrassing. And by the way, if you're above 70 and you're in the Congress, you probably hate crypto. Unless you're Trump, where you're like inventing meme coins and rug pulling people, you know, you probably hate crypto.
Okay, so we've prioritized.
Right.
Second stage in the...
Are we going to talk about Trump ever or no? You don't want to?
We'll get to that in a second. We will, I promise.
Well, no,
but
I want to talk about
stage
Trump. Hold on, John. We'll talk about Trump for a second. So from this platform, I said last year, and I quote, that Trump was going to cause us a regulatory nightmare because he needs to make money for himself. And he's got a couple guys working for him. Like, how are we going to make money for ourselves? We're going to rug pull people. Okay, that's a good idea. How much am I going to make? $600, $700, $800 million? Okay, great. Let's lock and load. Let's have people lose $4 billion for me to make $700, $800 million. And I said from this stage, because the Genius Act had just gotten passed, I said we're going to have a problem with the Clarity Act because the adversaries to Donald Trump are going to be mad. Like I said on Twitter or X, when Trump is shitting on Greenland, he wants to invade Greenland, it's hurting us in this industry. And people say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with this industry. Well, then you don't understand politics. Because his adversaries are like, well, what does the guy want? He wants the Clarity Act to pass. So let me do everything I can. Even if my constituents want the Clarity Act to pass, I'm Trump's adversary. Let me put the hurt on Trump. So that's where we are right now. You think it's going to pass?
I do.
Okay.
But that's a great segue, and we
right,
can
I hope-
include
I
it
hope-
in
I hope
phase 2 of the plan, which is
By the way, the one thing about Trump, he doesn't give a shit about the ethics clause. Everybody know that? Because he's like, put the ethics clause in. I'm going to break the fucking law anyway. I don't give a shit. And then when it's over, I'm going to pardon myself and all my family members and everybody that's 250 feet around the Oval Office. He doesn't give a shit about the ethics clause. So he's going to let all that shit go in. All right, Anthony.
phase 2 of the plan. We've prioritized. Now we have to own the negatives. You're saying one
That's
negative.
another thing. Okay, let me tell you what you were talking about. Going back to resilience. Okay, that's another thing. Okay, you got to recognize the truth. Okay, one thing Homer taught us. All right, we're all watching.
Simpson or Greek?
No, the Greek Homer. One thing Homer taught us. Right. Remember the Iliad. The Iliad from Homer is
One of 3.
is our emotions, and the Iliad is how human beings act and what drives us. The Odyssey is who we are, right? And so if you were in the ancient world and you were reading those texts, Homer is explaining to you the axioms of your life. Who remembers Cassandra from the first book in the Iliad? Anybody remember Cassandra? So Cassandra was Priam's daughter, the king of Troy. And what did Cassandra know? Well, the goddesses went to Cassandra and they blessed her with clairvoyance. And they said, you will always speak the truth and you will see the future, but we're going to curse you. And what was her curse? No one's going to believe you. You're a Cassandra. And so she went to her father and she said, there's some bad shit going to go down. Okay, Paris, my brother, stole the queen of Greece from Menelaus. And it's going to be very bad for us. They're going to launch 1,000 ships and they're going to burn the city down. And he didn't believe her. And that is a metaphor for moving your chair away from the camera. Because you see, we can't handle the truth. And Homer was telling you 3,000 years ago that we are not set up to handle the truth. We prefer to be lied to. And if we say the truth, it's very uncomfortable. We've got to move the chair because we can't say the truth about what's really going on. And Sorkin, Aaron Sorkin, not Andrew Sorkin, he took this motif and he put it in A Few Good Men because he read the Iliad. And he took the Jack Nicholson character, and everybody remembers the movie. He stood up, he said, you can't handle the truth. So you want to fix yourself, you got to face the truth in yourself. That's the number one thing. Okay, let's keep going.
It's very true.
But move a little closer.
My
Come on,
favorite,
the camera's right there. Move a little closer. I need everybody to see
my
you,
favorite
okay?
metaphor
You're
is
not
actually
Brian Armstrong. You're going to be okay. All right,
so
go
my
ahead.
favorite metaphor is actually the Aeneid, where the moderator's allowed to speak. That's one of my best. So
I don't remember that. Maybe that was
love it.
Dante. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
remember that in the Aeneid. Go ahead.
Okay, so we've prioritized infrastructure, tech. We're owning the negative, which is the meme coin extraction. Anything else that we need to own as a negative?
In our industry?
Yeah.
You know, we got bad dudes in our industry. Everybody knows that. We got jackasses and criminals in our industry. And so a lot of industries have that. And so, Paul Atkins is a friend of mine. I think he's trying to do a good job of helping the industry. I mean, he's praying that the Clarity Act gets passed so he doesn't have to create, as an administrator, the law. Because what happens is when you do that, then the pendulum starts. Gary's over here, Paul is over there, and then if we lose, because I still am a Republican, then we go back over here. It's very bad for the industry. So we need the Clarity Act to pass. But what I think you want is somebody like Paul. In my opinion, Paul Atkins is taking a mama bear approach. What's that? The mama bear approach is, I want to help the industry, all the good actors in this room. I want you to flourish, but I want to ref, I want to cop the people that are bad. See, Gary, I mean, he's suing good actors like Coinbase. It was like ridiculous. It was unnecessary. So that's why we want this thing to pass. I hope you're right. I'm not close enough to it to really know, but I hope you're right. I hope it does pass. It'd be very good for all of us.
Do you think crypto has a lost boys problem? Now, for those who don't know, Anthony's done some amazing things. One of the things I think that is most incredible is recently he did a podcast series with Scott Galloway called Lost Boys about the sort of epidemic of, how would you say, there's
We have
kids with no
it's
direction.
It's not just kids. We have 18 to 30-year-old males have a 25% higher incidence rate of suicide than any other demographic. We have advocacy groups for most people. If you go to NYU, where Scott teaches, there are 75 different advocacy groups, including, gay and lesbian advocacy groups, African American advocacy groups, et cetera. There are no white male advocacy groups. And people say, well, you shouldn't have that. You've had white privilege for 5,000 years. But I'm just telling you, those people are getting their asses kicked. And you have 18 to 30, 25% higher suicide rate. But 14 to 18, you've got a lot of misdirection going on in that community. And so you're saying, does crypto have a lost boys problem? I want to see if I can tie the analogy. I don't think crypto has a lost boys problem. I think crypto has an Uber problem. Okay, and let me try to explain that. So the government hates you. And so, again, you got to be honest about it. Look in the mirror tomorrow morning and say, wow, I'm in an industry, the government hates me. Okay, you have to understand that. And so, however, do the people love me? Do the people love me? And so the people were falling in love with you. Okay, when I was at a Thai event in November of 2024 after Trump won, the people were falling in love with you, even though the government hates you. And so that's the Uber analogy, because the governor didn't want Uber, the mayor didn't want Uber, the taxi cab commission didn't want Uber. You've seen the fight going on in London with the big, black cabs and Uber. Forget about it. Nobody wanted Uber at that level, but who wanted Uber? The people. People wanted Uber. And so the people got Uber. And it took a long time to get the government over the board. And so that's what's going on in this industry, because we lost steam. And again, I blame Trump for it, because by igniting people like that, people are like, oh, wow, this is, the naysayers on this industry are right. The people get rug pulled and they get hurt in the industry. And so we had a growing base of people, and we have a shrinking base of people right now. And you got to get the people, because the government hates you, you got to get the people to love you. Okay, so what do you got to do? You got to build good product, and you got to build efficient product, and you got to give them a cheaper delivery system on payments and things like that. And then people are like, well, I need this. But here's the good news for this industry, because this is a 5,000-year axiom on the planet. If the technology is better than the old technology, then it gets adopted. The government can stop it, they can stall it, they can put roadblocks up, but it really doesn't matter, okay? The horse and buggy people did not want the horseless carriage. And there was another group of people that were running steamships up and down the East Coast of the United States. They didn't want the rail system. They didn't want it. And this has always happened where prior technologies are trying to block existing technologies. Okay, but there will be a day where there's a peace pipe, going to smoke a peace pipe between Brian Armstrong and Jamie Dimon. And when that happens, everybody in this room is going to be a winner, and you got to wait for that. You got to hold out for that. You got to build and wait for that to happen.
Why do you think, outside of, is it just price went down, or were there other things that happened over the last year that you think turned public sentiment against crypto?
The corruption,
overall?
guy. Come on.
Okay.
We're in the, Trump said we're in a golden age. We're in the golden age of corruption. I mean, come on, guys. It's absolutely out of control. The corruption is out of control. Guys, last week, the Trump media organization announced that for $100,000, they're going to give you faster access to Trump's tweets. Now, I do admire that, by the way. I think that is very awesome, that we're not just corrupt, we're going to be advertising the corruption in front of everybody. I mean, it's about as good as it gets.
Let me play devil's advocate there. I don't believe this. Let me play devil's advocate. Every major exchange stratifies data sales by time lapse. Every major exchange. That's a major revenue generator
exactly.
for every
So,
major
and-
exchange.
and
So
Trump's
why is it
got
okay
the-
for them and not for social media companies?
I think it's, like I said, it's fantastic. So we have norms and systems that have been bypassed because we don't have codification. Okay, so Nancy Pelosi, if you go to LinkedIn this morning, because you did mention LinkedIn. Somebody sent me a LinkedIn of Nancy Pelosi's performance since she got into the Congress versus Warren Buffett's performance and versus the S&P 500. It's fantastic. I mean, she's unbelievable. You know, and I got hedge fund manager buddies. We're 30 billion, 75 offices, 3,000 people. They can't beat Nancy. She's on top of her game, and she knows what she's doing. And so Trump is like, hey, I can learn from Nancy. He's buying Apple, then tweeting about Apple. He's, the DOJ is going to drop something. Who are they dropping the case on? Okay, let me go buy that stock. When are you dropping the case? 3 days from now? Okay, let's do 400,000 call options. I mean, the guy had a 927-page financial disclosure. And you know what Trump would say to you if he was standing here? He would call me a loser and a moron, which I would enjoy. And then he would say to you guys, why didn't the other presidents do this? I'm so smart, and I was able to do this because, by the way, it's probably legal. It's probably really not illegal.
It does seem odd. It seems odd that crypto's being called out because
John Darcy's sitting here saying, man, all these Republicans that were coming to Wyoming, not coming anymore. They're still going to come, John. They like money, John. It's going to be okay.
No, it's a fair point. I made this point on CNBC, and
Go
even Sorkin, who's anti-crypto, acknowledged it was correct. We haven't decided as a country how we want our government officials to engage with capital markets. So the Democrats accuse the Republicans accuse the Democrats of front-running equities.
I think it's a good point.
The Democrats accuse Republicans of front-running crypto. But no clear rules have been set outside of disclosure rules. For some reason, crypto is getting called out and market structure is being delayed when every other asset class has pretty much the same problem.
I think it's a good point, but you are the victim of the current political environment. And so remember, we have to deal with the world the way it is, not the way we want it to be or the way it ought to be. Or like George Bernard Shaw said and John Kennedy plagiarized, life is unfair. And so it's unfair, but that's what you're dealing with. And so we have to wait it out, and we have to think about what we're going to do in this room to create more efficiency, lower cost, and where clients are looking at it saying, I do want to trade 24/7. There's more liquidity in doing that. Oh, yes, I would like to go to the supermarket and pay with my stable coin because I'm going to save 3.5% from the credit card or the restaurant. I would like to do that. And oh, by the way, if I'm an El Salvadoran expat and there's $400 million going back to my family members in El Salvador, I would like to do that in a peer-to-peer payment structure as opposed to going to Western Union. And if I give $1,000 to the Western Union guy, $900 goes to my mother. I would really like $999 to go to my mom. And that's what the people in this room are doing. And that's why we're going to win. But this is what we're up against. You have to be honest about it.
I think we have time for one question, maybe one or two questions. Anyone have questions? Or I have another, I can keep going and finish off with Anthony, or we have time for one or two questions. Not a very engaged, talkative crowd. So we'll finish up with this. So we've got the triad of resiliency. We've prioritized, focused on infrastructure. We're owning the negatives, which is, let's just say, to be diplomatic, government engagement with this market, as well as grifting from meme coin extractors, things like that. The last piece you talked about is recognizing our reality. So are there things that we're not admitting about this asset class? Are there elements that we have to be brutally honest about?
Well, I said it. The government hates you. The European government hates you more than the U.S. government at this
true.
point.
Very true, by the way.
Okay,
Yep.
and so they hate you. And the problem is you don't have enough people yet to overwhelm them like the Uber phenomenon, the ride-sharing technology. And so what you have to do, you got to create the technology that the people look at and say, I want that. And excuse me, Mr. Government, you got to get out of the way.
By the way, so Google, if you talk to employees at Google, when they launch a new product, they have what they call the magic number. The magic number is 250 million. If they can get 250 million active users, the probability of that product staying goes up demonstrably.
Right.
Now that's at Google scale. But to your point,
that.
so stable coins, payments, those are the most likely. So I'll tell you what it is for me. I think what Hyperliquid's doing around 24/7 hedging capacity is game changing, because once you're able to hedge your exposure to crude oil at 2 a.m. on a Friday,
Right.
you are never going to go back to waiting until
agree with
the
that.
pits open up at 9:30 on Monday.
I agree with that.
That would be the equivalent of like expecting people to go back to watching movies when the movie theaters tell them they can do it. So I think we have to lean in on 24/7.
Okay.
I think payments is right and stable coins are right. So I want you to leave the audience one last thing. You mentioned that at the worst part, what you did immediately was prioritize relationships, and that's fantastic advice for everyone going through a tough time right now, questioning their career, questioning their company's trajectory. We have a lot of companies in crypto are not going to survive. We know this. A lot of companies in AI are not going to survive, but they've got 2 to 3 years of wind behind their sails.
Okay.
So what would you say to people in this room who are concerned about their career trajectory? Forget about the young guys. Forget about the folks like under 30. But the folks who are midway through their career who are like, I don't know if I'm with the right company right now. I don't know if I have 2 years left of cash flow. What would you say to them? How should they frame their next 10 years?
It's very hard to give generic advice because every company's different and every person is different in terms of what their skill set is. But the best generic advice I can give is don't day trade your career. Because if you day trade your career and you're moving around a lot, you're going to hate yourself because also it's going to be harder to get jobs because people see that you're a job hopper. And then the second thing is it's always horrific before it gets a lot better. Skybridge should have been out of business 4 times. And the worst one was actually in 2008. And I had 2 of my buddies from Goldman Sachs come to see me. And I was getting annihilated in the global financial crisis. And they told me, you should shut this down. You should liquidate it and go find a job, that this is over. And they were right, by the way. If you looked at the numbers and you looked at everything, they were 100% right. I should have shut it down and liquidated it. But I'm too stubborn to do that, so I didn't do that. We ended up doing a few transactions. Remember, I said buy or build. I bought something from Citibank. I built something else. We started the SALT conference, and we stayed alive. And so what I would say to everybody in the room, don't day trade your career, and there's an opportunity right in front of you right now in the job that you're in, but it's going to you have to force your mind to expand into alternative thinking, and you have to force your mind to expand into like dream scenarios, and then you have to try to execute that before you leave your job. That would be my recommendation.
Right, final thing.
Yeah.
Your book, everyone should take a look. It's your new book. Heidi, who without her, none of this would be here, wants you to sign it for her, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
And she asked for something witty. It's clever.
Clever.
How about Heidi loved you on the hills, Anthony?
Heidi loved you on the hills?
Yeah, the hill. Heidi
Or
Montag, Heidi.
Yeah, is D'Agostino going to be my moderator next year? Is that a witty enough or no? Yes. You write that.
All right, round of applause. Thanks, Anthony.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you guys.